Hello, we have a second line day. We are in gate 26, the gate of the egoist, the taming power of the great. And the second line is called the lessons of history. When you come to the second line, you come to the position of being seen. The 26 is not just the egoist, it is also the capacity to lie and to exaggerate. All of these things are part of what is necessary to get information to the tribe. People look inside of the 26 too, and they see them as being egoists or liars. These people are always being watched, and they don't necessarily know that because second lines do not have that kind of capacity. What they say, whether it's an exaggeration or not, can be seen by others. And all of a sudden someone says, hey, but you said that. And then they get that label of being a paper tiger. The ability to transmit to others is obviously something that the 26 too knows nothing about. It's something that has to be seen in them and called out. All 26s should have a public life. Oh, they should be going out into the tribe, doing their work. They have the gift of being able to turn the tribe on to whatever it is they're selling. The thing is that the more secure they are within themselves, that power is just a glow. It's not a perversion of the essence or the truth of things. It actually becomes part of who they are. In the exaltation, the energy and depth of reflection to learn from the past in anticipation of the future. The power of the ego to mature through experience. They learn that if you lie, then you better have a good memory, because otherwise you're going to get caught out. Oh, what tangled webs we weave when first we practice to deceive. You will have to have a good memory. This is what they learn. They don't think anyone is listening to them. That is part of their problem, really. So they're in the pub and they say, I caught this huge fish last night. It was amazing. And they're talking to their friends and they say what an incredible thing it was. And the next day, their partner, who heard from one of the friends in the pub, says, so where's this fish then? And it turns out that it wasn't true. And they don't really even remember saying it because they didn't think anyone was actually listening to them. But they are listened to because they can be seen then as being an exaggerator or an egoist. But people are listening. If you meet a 26 too, and you're running a business and they come in the door, then automatically you look in their window and you say, wow, they could sell. Now, it doesn't mean that they can. The 26 one has a natural capacity to be able to do that. But the second line is somebody who has to be trained. They have to be trained to that capacity to be able to transmit. They have to develop the skills or the crafts or whatever the case may be. And they learn from those experiences. And it can take a long time. In the detriment, the urge to take action despite the evidence of history. The failure of the ego to respect experience. So many 26 twos, every time somebody says, you can sell this, they keep on going along with that until the damn thing is a failure. And all the way down the line, they realized that they couldn't do it. When Ra had his experience with the voice, when it was over, he said he'd never been so depressed, so down. He went to a very dark place, very melancholic. He said in his entire life, this was the biggest thing that had ever brought him to that level. And it was only because he didn't want to be a salesman for the voice. He had 10 first lines. He just wanted to mind his own business. He wanted to be left alone. He had that lower trigram introspection. The lower trigram makes it very difficult to be able to transmit successfully to the tribe because it's going to be dependent on the other. Some of Ra's main associations with people who helped him to put human design out into the world, they all had the gate 44. That's what made it possible for him to transmit. This is the process of trying to continue with your manipulation, even when you've been found out. The whole thing about second lines is that they do get found out. And it's not necessarily bad, because if they get found out enough, they can end up being really good liars. And being a liar is not necessarily bad. It depends what you're lying about. By telling somebody this is the best fridge that has ever been made, yes, it's a lie, but the person who is buying that doesn't want to hear this fridge is shite, don't bother, because then they're not going to buy it. And you don't want to hear, well, it's okay, it works. You don't want to hear that. You want to hear someone say, I know you're going to be surprised that this fridge is a tenth of the price of some of the higher end ones, but it's still the best fridge that's ever been made. You're going to save a lot of money in the long run, and you're going to be really really happy. And besides, your mum's got one and your neighbour's got one, so you might as well buy one. Then everyone is going to be happy. So this is the kind of lie that is kind of productive in our community, because it's also what's expected by the tribe. It's like TV adverts where they say, this gets everything whiter than white. Whiter than anything else. Your wash will never have been so white. The tribe loves that kind of stuff. They love it. And everyone knows it's a joke. But you don't want to be told, this whitener will leave your clothes grey. Because it's like, no. But the second line gets found out. But then they discover that people are actually paying attention to them. And in discovering that, it teaches them to be more careful. One of the things that 26 and 40s have to deal with in their life is the expectation of everybody else who is dependent on their ego. So they put their ego and their willpower to the test every time. And they have to take the burden of everybody else's expectation. Everyone else has this expectation that they are the only one who can sell that product. Everyone is depending on you, and they have to take the burden of that as well. The fact of the matter is, yes, they seek a way to get out of that pressure, to go down the spa or go to the golf course so that they can recuperate their energy, because the ego cannot work consistently. But then it will go back in. And in that space in between, this is kind of where the lying takes place. It's not just lying. Sometimes it's nothing more than exaggeration, and it's harmless. I mean, this whole business about stretching whatever the truth happens to be. Well, the 26 and the 40, they will both do that in order to protect their time, which is their energy resource. And they will protect their energy from being shattered. For the 26 that says, this is the best fridge, please buy it. For every 14 people they say that to, 13 are going to say, on your bike, bucker off. And one might say yes. That 26 has to deal with all of those no's. And it's not so easy for the 26 to keep going back out into the world time and time again, because they know that in order to get to the place where everyone thinks they're wonderful, they have to go through that space where they face a lot of rejection, where everyone thinks they're terrible, where every other person or lots of people are saying, get off my doorstep, go away, I don't need this. This is quite a role the 26 has. And the 26 is the supplier for the community. For someone who is operating out of an undefined ego, they get all pumped up, by somebody else, and they blurt out all this stuff. They have no idea what they're saying. Someone with an ego not connected to an awareness system within themselves, they have no way of reflecting on what they're saying. And yes, they can get very much caught up in the exaggeration themselves and live it out. Of course, all the lower trigrams here get shocked anyway, regularly, because the lower trigram will always meet the outside when it's least expected. The 26 too, who doesn't think anyone is paying attention to it and is, stretched out in the sauna, suddenly meet the boss coming in. And the boss says, I thought you were with Mr. Jones this afternoon. And it is in this moment that they've been found out. Oh, Mr. Jones died. They lie. And they lie because otherwise they couldn't do their job. And so, really, they have to lie to themselves too. They lie to themselves just to give themselves the courage to keep going back in the world and deal with all those people who reject them. After all, we expect of the ego what no other center is expected to deal with. The ego is expected to deal with abuse and rejection. You know, the jobs that no other center wants, they give to the ego. The ego will protect itself. It is unaware, so it uses the tools that are inherent to it. The grounding is coming through gate 45 in the second line, and it's called consensus. 45-2s are great warriors, but they have a lot of material potential, and that's what they're projecting out. They're the great warriors because they don't know what they can do. Perhaps this supports the exaggeration and the lying, which might sound strange, but this is the nature of gates 26 and this line that we've been looking at. You know, if they are acting according to their nature, then the exaggeration is correct. Learning how to meet the other through being caught out in their lies is correct. The moon has been in gate 36 since 0102 this morning, the solar plexus gate of crisis. It moves to gate 25 at 10:38. This is the gate of innocence, the gate of unconditional love, and it joins the North Node, bringing a little extra focus here to this gate that is such an important part of our experience. Gate 25 is part of the background frequency. It is a lock in the context of the global cycles. It is the energy of innocence and unconditional love that has been with us for thousands and thousands of years, with other gates operating as keys, opening those locks, bringing their own flavor. The locks never change. They hold their position always, but the keys change every 412 years. This is what is happening in 2027. This is the change in the global cycles. And it's a bit off topic, perhaps, for this transit report, but it's cosmology. And anytime I can give you some cosmology, you know I'm going to do that because I love cosmology. The next moon gate is gate 17 at 2011. The moon transits into the gate of opinions that's in the Ajna. This is a gate in logical circuitry. It's the collective. Logical collective circuitry, get it right? It's a projector gate, which means it needs to be invited, recognized and invited to share its opinions, at least if it wants them to be taken seriously. And it really helps if there could be a 62 around to check the details before expressing anything to the collective. And the last transit for today's report is gate 21 at 5:41 tomorrow morning. This is an ego gate, and it's making a channel with the earth in gate 45. Gate 21 is the hunter, the huntress. It's called biting through, often referred to as the gate of control. And we know that gate 45 is the gatherer, and together they form a manifesting channel that is called the money line. This is the CEO and the president of the company meeting. It's the king and the prime minister. There can be some conflict in this channel. Both sides like to be in control to some degree or another. Neither really like to delegate too much, but they both want what is best for the tribe, and this is their driving focus. So that is me done for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I will see you for a third line tomorrow. And until then, as always, yes, and you, as always, love yourself. Go feed a blackbird. They're very appreciative at this time of year. They love sultanas, preferably organic, which they don't get in this house. But anyway, yeah, go gently. Love yourself. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.